horror films that try to terrify audiences through escalation. Bigger scares, louder sound design, more graphic imagery, more violence. And then there are films like Obsession, directed by Curry Barker, which understand that the most frightening thing imaginable is often much quieter. The slow corruption of human emotion. The realization that love, grief, loneliness, and desire can decay into something parasitic if left untreated long enough. Before we begin, this video is sponsored by Plex. For more information, stick around after the video to learn how to corral your movies, TV shows, and music from all your streaming services into one place. Stop scrolling, start streaming, get Plex. Watching Obsession felt strangely invasive to me, almost less like viewing a film and more like being forced to sit inside someone else's unraveling mental state. What Barker creates here is not simply a possession film, nor purely a psychological horror story, but something that exists uncomfortably between the two. A film about emotional infestation, about the terrifying moment when affection stops being connection and becomes consumption. What struck me immediately is how deeply sad the film is. Not sad in the sentimental sense, but in the existential sense. Every frame feels soaked in emotional exhaustion. The characters move through the film like people already haunted long before anything overtly supernatural begins to occur. Barker directs them with an almost painful intimacy, emphasizing not only what they say to one another, but what they are desperately unable to say. The result is a horror film built less on shock and more on emotional suffocation. At its core, Obsession is about the inability to let go, and I think that is what makes it so psychologically devastating. So many horror films portray possession as abrupt, an external evil invading an innocent person, but Barker approaches possession much differently here. It feels inadvertently invited, cultivated, fed emotionally until it becomes inseparable from the people involved. The supernatural elements are horrifying precisely because they emerge from deeply recognizable human impulses: longing, dependency, fear of abandonment, unresolved grief, romantic fixation. The possession becomes the external manifestation of internal emotional decay. That idea lingers with me even now, because the more I think about it, the more Obsession stopped feeling like a supernatural story, and started feeling like a brutally honest depiction of obsessive attachment. Barker understands something that many filmmakers avoid acknowledging. Obsession often disguises itself as love. In fact, culture frequently rewards it. We romanticize people who can't let go. We celebrate emotional intensity as proof of sincerity. We tell stories about lovers who transcend logic, morality, even death itself sometimes, in pursuit of another person. Obsession dismantles that fantasy piece by piece. The film asks a horrifying question beneath all of its psychological chaos. What if your desire to obtain and keep someone forever is inherently violent? Not physical at first, of course, but emotionally, even spiritually. The film repeatedly frames intimacy as something that slowly loses its humanity the moment one person begins treating another as emotional salvation, rather than an autonomous individual. Barker's direction emphasizes this beautifully through atmosphere and visual language. Characters are often framed separately even when occupying the same room. Reflections distort faces. Shadows consume portions of the frame, turning characters into complete silhouette many times. Conversations feel fragmented, as though nobody is truly communicating with one another, but instead projecting emotional need into empty spaces. There's an overwhelming sense throughout the film that everyone is trapped inside their own emotional interpretation of reality. that is what obsession does. It replaces the real person with the imagined one. And once that transformation happens, possession becomes inevitable. One of the most compelling aspects of obsession is how it weaponizes repetition. Certain emotional beats, visual motifs, and interactions reoccur with slight distortions, creating the sensation that the film itself is trapped in a psychological loop of sorts. Watching this film reminded me of periods in my life where emotional pain became strangely addictive, where grief or longing transforms into routine. Barker seems fascinated by the way human beings can become emotionally dependent on their own suffering, because suffering at least provides certainty. Letting go means stepping into emotional emptiness, and this film understands how terrifying that void can feel. I think this is why the possession element works so effectively as a metaphor. The characters are not merely haunted by supernatural forces, they are haunted by the parts of themselves incapable of accepting impermanence. The horror emerges from emotional refusal to move on, refusal to release memory, refusal to accept that you might not get the person that you've longed for so long. What makes the film especially disturbing from a personal perspective is how recognizable its emotional logic feels. Not the extremes necessarily, but the impulses beneath them. Most people understand what it means to obsess over someone emotionally, to replay conversations at night, to reinterpret old memories, to romanticize emotional pain because losing the pain feels like losing the connection itself. Barker stretches those impulses towards psychological and supernatural collapse, forcing the audience to confront how thin the line can be between devotion and destruction. There's also something deeply modern about this film's portrayal of emotional dependency. Obsession feels connected to a generation increasingly terrified of loneliness, yet emotionally overwhelmed by intimacy. The characters crave connection desperately, but they do not know how to exist within it healthily. They seek emotional permanence in a world defined by instability, and because of that, love transforms into possession. Not metaphorically, quite literally. I think Barker's greatest strength as a director here is his restraint. He understands that horror becomes more effective when it feels emotionally inevitable, rather than mechanically plotted. The film unfolds like a slow psychological infection. Nothing feels entirely sudden because the emotional damage already exists beforehand. The supernatural simply gives visibility to the invisible wounds. And beneath all the horror, what I ultimately found most haunting was the film's profound loneliness. In some way, every character here feels emotionally stranded. Even moments of intimacy and camaraderie carry distance with them. Barker portrays love not as rescue, but as something fragile and frightening, because it requires vulnerability without ownership. The tragedy of the film is that its characters cannot accept that distinction. They want certainty, permanence, emotional possession disguised as safety. But the film understands the paradox hidden inside that desire. The tighter people grip one another emotionally, the more they destroy the very thing they are trying to preserve. That may be why this film affected me far more than most modern horror films. It's not frightening because of what jumps out from the darkness, or what lurks within it. It is frightening because it recognizes how easily ordinary emotional wounds can mutate into something monstrous when left unchecked. Barker transforms longing into horror, dependency into haunting, love into infestation. And perhaps the film's darkest insight is the fact that people are often far more afraid of being forgotten than they are of being destroyed. That fear infects every frame. The fear of emotional insignificance, the fear of abandonment, the fear that once someone leaves, parts of ourselves disappear with them. Barker presents possession as the ultimate fantasy solution to those fears. Total permanence, total intimacy, total emotional control. But permanence achieved through possession becomes a sort of death, because love cannot survive ownership, connection can't survive control, and intimacy without freedom becomes haunting. By the end of the film, what lingered with me was not simply dread, but a kind of grief. Grief for the characters, grief for the emotional damage that created them, Grief for the deeply human desire underneath all of that horror. The desire to be loved so completely that separation never becomes necessary. The film understands that desire intimately, and that understanding is what makes it so terrifying. Managing the overwhelming number of streaming services that we all subscribe to can be a nightmare, making us wish for some sort of one-stop destination for all of our movies, TV shows, and music. Well, thankfully, Plex has the answer, bringing together free ad-supported movies, shows, and live TV with the power to search and add to your watch list any title ever made, no matter which streaming service it's on. Plex keeps everything in one place, even for theater releases. Discover more and search faster by customizing your experience. Add friends, share thoughts, and find your next binge-worthy title. Track your favorite actors with Discover credits. See all their movies and shows in one place. Stream your own movies, TV shows, music, and photos anywhere on any device. And best of all, Plex is a free streaming app for everyone, supported by ads that help bring you content from partners like Lionsgate, AMC, and even A24. Stream instantly from your computer, phone, tablet, game console, smart TV, or streaming media player. While you don't need an account to use Plex, signing up does give you extra benefits, such as your own universal watch list, the ability to customize search results, seamlessly watching across all devices, and more. And if you want to unlock even more incredible features, consider joining Plex Pass, Plex's premium subscription, which gives power users advanced features for managing personal media libraries. Just follow the link down in the description today to join more than 17 million users worldwide who trust Plex as their entertainment concierge, helping them discover, organize, and enjoy the best content across all of their favorite platforms. Stop scrolling, start streaming, get Plex. Well, friends, that's gonna be all for now. If you are interested in this film, I urge you to check it out for yourself and formulate your own thoughts and opinions about it. I hope you come share those thoughts and opinions in the comments. Let me know if there are any movies that you would like to see discussed on this channel. I always love to hear from you guys, and I do my best to try and respond to everyone. As always, I've put a link down in the description to a physical copy of this film, if one exists, that you can add to your collection. Using that link helps out the channel, and that's always appreciated. If you like this video, I urge you to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you aren't already. I know that some of you watching aren't subscribed, so help out the channel and subscribe. If you'd like to go the extra mile and support the channel even more, we do have a couple options for you to do so. You can join us on Patreon, where you can get yourself early access to future videos, Patreon exclusive content, and access to the ETF Digital Archive. We get a lot of compliments about the VHS collection that you guys see in the background of our videos. Well, we've been hard at work slowly digitizing the collection and creating a place where we can share it with all of you. Thanks to the help of the Plex platform, we can now do just that. This is our way of doing our part in helping preserve that gritty, nostalgic VHS look and feeling before it's gone forever. With Plex, you can stream our VHS collection from anywhere at any time. It's basically like having a streaming service for VHS, which I think is pretty cool. Additionally, if you're tired of adding to your growing list of monthly subscriptions, you can help support the channel on Ko-Fi, where you can drop a single tip, the cost of a cup of coffee, or less. No pressure, no tiers required. But with all of the same monthly benefits that you will find on Patreon offered as well. We also have a Mercari store where you can go and get yourself a little piece of the ETF archive. While collecting VHS, Blu-rays, and DVDs over many years, we wind up with lots of duplicates, and we unfortunately can't store them all. So on our Mercari shop, we have all of those for sale. Purchasing those not only expands your collection, but makes room for us to expand ours. All the links for everything are down in the description. Until next time, stay safe, and as always, thanks for watching.